What's up, guys? So today we're going to be doing a ban list prediction slash ban list once. Yeah, in the background I've got some Orcus gameplay going on. It's a pretty interesting deck that my friend's been working on. But anyway, yeah. So ban list. Look, what's funny about this, and I told myself I wouldn't do ban list predictions just because the problem is Konami doesn't ban cards that need to be banned. Konami tends to ban cards to sell products, and so as a result I feel like so many times there's cards that so obviously should be banned but they won't get banned because Konami doesn't want to ban them. They'd rather push product. But I thought, you know what, why not? I'll still jump back in it and say at least if I can't talk about what should be banned, or I can't really predict the ban list, I can at least say what I think should be banned. So even though I say it's a ban list prediction, it's more like a ban list once, because if I'm 100% honest, I don't expect Konami to ban most of these. At most they'll ban like one if we're really lucky. But anyway, yeah, ban list. So what do I think needs to be banned and could potentially be hit on the next ban list? So to start off with, and I think this one is probably the most obvious, I think Miscellaneousaurus needs to go to 1. It needs to go to either 1 or 0. Now I said this last time, and it really comes down to the fact that dinosaurs, while it's nice to have a budget deck that is that high up, what dinosaurs is doing at the moment is just not fair. It's ridiculous. They have a card that essentially allows them to circumvent any sort of interaction by their opponent. Now not only that, but it's actually a pretty strong starter for them, and so it fills too many roles. That's one of the problems I have with Miscellaneousaurus. Now this is compounded by the fact that they have a card called Fossil Dig. Fossil Dig is basically a better rotor for dinosaurs, and they have that at 3. So I think Miscellaneousaurus needs to go to 1, and I think it wouldn't be unfair as well for Fossil Dig to go to 0 or 1 as well, because generic searching spells like that usually aren't allowed to be in the game. So the fact that dinosaurs are allowed to have that at max power alongside having 3 really good starters in their deck, I just don't think it's necessary. So yeah, that's my first one, Miscellaneousaurus to 1. Now moving on next, the next deck, and this deck has been dominating the charts for a while, which is Dragon Link. Dragon Link's been undercovered the strongest deck for a long time, but it's only really in the last format, since the last patch, that it's been noticed. Before that, for some reason, people weren't playing it as much, but Dragon Link definitely needs to be hit. I mean, the deck's just too resilient. It's got so many 1 and 2 card starters. For anyone who's played against Dragon Link, you know that they can combo through pretty much anything. You hit them with 2 or 3 hand drops and they still put up 2 or 3 negates at the end of the game and then OTK you next turn. Now, what to hit Dragon Link? Dragon Link's a really hard one because they've got so many starters and extenders, and I'm really hesitant for any of the rocket cards to be touched, because the problem with hitting any of the rocket cards is that rockets by themselves aren't actually bust. I think they're a really good deck, a really quite skill intensive deck as well, and I don't think that engine should be touched for the most part. I also don't really want the Red Eyes engine to be touched. I do think Dragoon does need a ban. I don't think it's a very fair card. I have a Dragoon Red Eyes Fusion or Verte, but at the same time I also don't think they should be hit because of Dragon Link, because that's barely the problem, and half the time in Dragon Link you don't even need to bring out Dragoon. So what do I think needs to be hit? I think Guard Dragon LP. I think that's the safest hit. Guard Dragon LP for a while has just been an unfair card. Funnily enough, the Guard Dragons in general are just busted cards. The only one that's not busted is still good. That's Guard Dragon Pisty. But Guard Dragon Agapane, that got banned ages ago for the same reason. Tutoring out cards from the extra deck for free was just ridiculous, and tutoring out any dragon you want from the deck, again, that's just too strong, especially for an archetype like dragons that is that strong and that has a lot of very powerful starters and extenders inside the deck. To just bring them out, it's just not very fair. So I definitely think Guard Dragon LP is a good start in knocking down Dragon Link. Now, moving on from that, the next deck we need to discuss is going to be Infernoble Knights. And Infernoble Knights, I think they need a very light hit. I think it's just one card, and that's Smoke Grenade of the Thief. Smoke Grenade's an unfair card. It's not nice to be able to have rip cards from your opponent's hand. It's especially not nice to be able to do that more than once a turn. So I definitely think Smoke Grenade needs to be slapped down, because it's just not a fair card. It doesn't promote healthy gameplay, and Infernoble Knights are good enough without it. I actually think they're a very well balanced, at least, combo deck compared to a lot of the others. They do some really ridiculous things with Smoke Grenade, but beyond that they actually are quite fair for a combo deck at the top tier, and I'm quite happy with how they are. So I think Smoke Grenade of the Thief would be a great hit for Infernoble Knights. Now moving on, Dogmatica Invoked, or Dogmatica. Let's talk about Dogmatica and Eldritch first, actually, then we'll talk about Dogmatica and Invoked next. So Dogmatica, I don't think Dogmatica is an unfair deck, but I do think it is too easily splashable, and people aren't playing half the cards in the archetype. People are mainly playing Dogmatica as a supplementary engine, just using 3 of that spell, Disciple of Nadir, or whatever it's called, playing 3 of a Cliche and then playing either Dogmatic of Punishment or Fleur de Lis. Now, how would I hit this deck? Nadir I would take to 0 or 1. OCG did the similar thing. I think that card's just too good. It makes you really sad as someone who loves ritual decks, because that card is amazing if you're playing a ritual deck. But I definitely think that card needs to be taken down to 1 or to 0. I think that would help at reducing the splashability of that package. Those 3 disciples that generate you an insane amount of pluses just for no reason, give you 3 pops as well. Dogmatic of Punishment, the trap, I think is a very fair card, but the problem is how easy it is to access. That's where the problem comes, because Dogmatic of Punishment locks you out of the extra deck, which I think is a really good payment for that cost. Same with all the rest of the Dogmatic monsters. It's just Disciple of Nadir. Even though that does lock you out, you're potentially getting a pop and a search off it just too much. Now, moving on, we've got the last few decks that I think do at least need to be touched slightly on the ban list. So the first one is definitely going to be Eldritch. Eldritch, I've had a problem with Eldritch for a while, just being too strong as a control deck, and I think that one's actually really easy to solve. I think the Golden Lord can go down to 2 potentially, or Scarlet Sanguine can go down to 1. I think both of those changes would be good just to add a bit of weakness, especially with Called by the Grave going. One of the issues with Eldritch is its grand potential is just too good, and again, it's a similar thing to Dogmatica. It can just be splashed in everything, and the deck just keeps going, and it's choking all the other combo decks, control decks, sorry, out of the format. So I definitely think it would be worthwhile potentially to take Golden Lord down to 2. That would mean that if you're getting rid of, at least if you can get rid of 2, they're on the back foot, or to put Scarlet Sanguine down to 1. I don't think it's fair that sometimes you out the Eldritch on field and then they just dump another one because they've got a very easy card to shoot it directly from the deck. So I don't think it would be a bad idea at all to take Scarlet Sanguine down to 1. Once they've used it once, they're not going to be tutoring out from the deck for free anymore. Now, another deck that definitely needs to be hit, and this one has been flying under the radar because it's not necessarily as meta as the other decks, but I do think it's needed a hit for a while, and that's Invoked. And look, guys, I'm an Invoked player. So as I'm saying this, it's hurting my feelings too, but I think Invoke needs to be hit. It's just too good of an engine. Alistar into Meltdown into Invocation, it's just so good, and that's why we keep seeing it splashed in those top decks. So as I said before, there's a couple of different ways you can hit it. I think the best way is to take Invocation down to 1, maybe take Alistar, or take Alistar down to 2. The reason being is it needs to be easier for someone to break that chain. I like it in Yu-Gi-Oh! Where it's easy for someone who has if I have the objective of I want to break your Invoke chain and reduce your grand potential, that should be a viable option for me. Right now, it's not really. But if we have Invocation at 1, for example, get rid of 1 Invocation, they're not in a good position. Now Invokes players potentially have to play other spells, and especially with the new Magistus archetype, they've got other good fusion spells that they could potentially use. The second thing as well is it also means that Invoke players can't loop more than 1. So for example, there's some pretty insane combos you can do with the Invoker of Madness, just searching more and more invocations and just spamming fusion monsters on the field. And you can't negate those fusion summons, by the way, because of their field spell. So I do think it would be worth taking it Invocation down to 1 or Alistar down to 2. I think both of those hits would be good at slightly weakening the Invoked archetype without removing it from the game completely. And then lastly, there are 2 cards that need to be hit. Both of these cards have been problems for a while. They keep being abused by loads of different archetypes, and I just think they should go. True King of all Calamities and Utopic Zexal. Look, denying your opponent from activating effects in the first place is just not fair. Even if there's counters to it, it just doesn't make it okay. And both of these cards do it in such the most degenerate way, and because they're so easy to summon, I just don't see a format where they can be positive for the game. So I think both of these cards just need to go to 0. They don't need to go to 1, even though it's frustrating that sometimes people are bringing out 2 Calamities. I think they just need to go to 0. We don't need to see those cards, we don't want to see those cards, and they can just piss off, and we can have a much healthier format as a reason for that. But anyway, guys, yes, so that is my ban list hopes and wants predictions. I know what you call it. This is what Konami should do. Konami, hire me. I know what to do, man. Hire me. But anyway, guys, look, thank you all for watching. Stay tuned. I've got a lot of great content coming out this week, and you're going to be loving to see it. I'm telling you now, so hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out. But I will talk to you all later. Peace.